Tokyo, Japan. My name is Gary Verheller, and I'll be your host for what we call the Substance of Living podcast. Today, we'll look at what we call life's lessons. And I hope this will provide you with some insight, maybe even some inspiration to life's challenges. Hello, and welcome to episode 35, entitled Finding Joy. Many people that I work with, some executives I work with, people that I work with to help develop themselves, and generally people that I've worked with, they find themselves unsatisfied. They find themselves unhappy with life. They have no joy. And I experienced the very same thing. I was so focused on work, working 6, sometimes 7 days a week, and worried about getting more clients and just focused, that work was no longer pleasurable. It was no longer joyful. It was work. So I wanted to rediscover what brought me joy. And I thought, okay, I'll do this chronologically, because I found that attempting to remember things chronologically can be a great help. So what I did was I set up myself and I said, okay, what brought me joy from the time I was 5 years old, from the time I was born to the time I was 5 years old? What brought me joy? Well, one of the very first things that came to mind was being thrown up in the air by my father. He would take me, and I was a little guy, and the security of my dad's hands, and he would toss me up in the air and catch me. And of course, I wasn't being thrown up in the air very high, and there was no real danger. Yet it was the excitement and the security of being tossed up in the air and caught by my dad. It was magnificent. It was just pure joy. Another thing, when I was 3 years old, and my brother was just born, I guess I was 4 years old, so he was 1. We were in the same playpen together. I climbed over the playpen fence and I was in the playpen with him, and there were holes in the bottom of the floor so the playpen could collapse. And we were taking clothespins. Now these are the old kind of clothespins, not the squeezy kind. The old-fashioned one-piece wood kind that had 2 legs and would go over the line and hold the clothes on. And you could drop them through those holes. Were perfect. And we must have dropped 50 of those clothespins through the hole in the floor of the playpen. And that was we were just laughing so much because we couldn't see them after they're gone. Yeah, they're gone, they disappeared. Well, let's do it alone. It was pure joy. When I was 5 to 10 years old, I discovered I was one of the fastest kids on the block. Who knew? So I would be playing tag almost every day in elementary school, and I was one of the fastest kids. It got to the point where I volunteered to be it so I could run more after all the other kids. It was great fun, and I got great joy out of that. When I was 15 to 20, I discovered dance. And I've always loved rhythms. So I was actually voted the best dancer of my senior high school class. There were 500 kids in the high school class. So I was thinking, all of these things are physical. So then I decided I'll make a list, and I'll read some of that to you, of the things that bring me joy, the physical things that bring me joy. Sunshine brings me joy. I'm a summer boy. I love sunshine. I love feeling the sun on my body. It's just wonderful. I love breezes, soft breezes, particularly in the summer and in the spring too. I love the smell of newly cut grass. And that's something where I grew up in St. Louis. It's a very, very green city, lots of lawns, and that smell of newly mowed lawns, that was summer to me. That brought a smile to my face. Music has always brought a smile to my face and brought me joy and comfort. Rhythm. When I was a kid, I used to play drums with my feet going up the steps. It used to drive my mom and dad crazy. Gary, stop it! Because I would be boom, 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 and then go up to the next step and do the same thing. So rhythms always fascinated me. Climbing trees. I love to climb trees. I love the solitude in climbing a tree. And I'd get up as high up in the tree as I could get and just sit there. And I could feel the tree moving with the wind and hearing that breeze I was telling you about, hear the breeze go through the leaves. It was just so peaceful. It was a quiet joy that I had. I loved running, as I said, playing tag. I loved swimming in the summertime, feeling the sun and the water on my skin. It was great. I loved bicycling. Again, a moment of solitude. I was biking. It was for me. And it was just something I greatly enjoyed. I loved my mother's back rubs. She would sit on the floor with her back to the wall, and I would lay across her legs when I was a kid, and she would just simply rub my back. That was such a feeling of comfort, such a feeling of love. It truly warmed my heart. I really loved that. I loved watching my brother build. He was, as I mentioned, he was my younger brother, still is, and he could have been a great engineer because he used to play in the dirt. He used to make roads and bridges, and he would have just very simple tools like a spatula or a pancake flipper and a spoon and a fork, and he could make all kinds of interesting designs. And I was fascinated with that. That was something that I really loved watching and admired him for. I loved hearing my sisters laugh, particularly at the dining room table. We came from a very traditional family. The father would sit at the head of the table, and mom would sit at the other end of the table. I, the oldest brother, would sit on my father's right. And then my brother, my younger brother, would sit on my right. And then my mom, and on her right would be the eldest daughter, and then the youngest daughter. And there was no television allowed to be played. Sometimes we'd have some soft music, but everyone had to hold conversation and share what we did that day. It brought the family together around the table. And some of my fondest memories were my dad telling stories or teasing us or making jokes, and my mom smiling and just loving us too. That brought me joy. Other things that brought me joy when I was a kid was reading biographies. They thought, well, wow, this guy was a kid like me. I remember biographies were really big for me in elementary school, and I really loved reading about Ben Franklin and Thomas Jefferson and George Washington and the great heroes of our country. I loved going to see inspirational movies where the good guys won over the bad. It was wonderful. I had lost all of that because I was working so much and I was just focused on working, and I failed. No, let's say I forgot. I forgot to incorporate what brings me joy into my life. I started incorporating those things, and now I find life has been enriched. It enhances my life. So remember what you did when you were a kid. More times than not, those are pretty simple things. They don't cost anything. Incorporate that into your life. Enjoy. Thank you. Thank you for joining us today for the Substance of Living podcast. If you'd be kind enough to consider subscribing, you can contact us through Spotify or Apple Podcasts or connect on Twitter. Join us again next time for what I hope will help you navigate life.